This show seems to have fully embraced its wrongs to the point that it is right. That makes as much sense as half the storylines this season. Hi, I hope your holiday season so far is treating you well. I don't know whether or not I'm going to be able to put out this video before Christmas or like way after Christmas, but regardless, happy holidays. Regardless of whether or not you celebrate anything during this time of year, I hope you are healthy, I hope you are happy, and I hope you are ending this year on a high note. I can't say the same though, since I have now watched all 3 seasons of Emily in Paris. I did do that willingly though, so it is the consequences of my own actions. Emily in Paris season 3 just came out, so the French now have 2 things to be upset about this week. I actually watched season 1 of Emily in Paris back in 2020 when I was a wee young lad, and well, actually, if you don't want to hear about my personal journey with Emily in Paris, you can skip ahead, I guess. Basically, I was in this class in college on TV and TV streaming media, and we had this big semester-long project where in the beginning of the semester we were put into groups of like 5 people, and we had to choose a TV show to base our project on, and then by the end of the semester we were expected to have completed like a 40 to 45 page paper and around a 90-minute presentation on a full analysis of the TV show. And no, my group did not do Emily in Paris, we actually did the show Atlanta. However, a group did do Emily in Paris, so for homework, I literally had to watch season 1 of the show. And good grief, did I have thoughts. There's nothing new I can really say about season 1 of Emily in Paris. I think a lot of creators have used this platform to articulate its problems well enough. But when season 2 came out last year, I didn't watch it, and so I wasn't really in a position to give my full thoughts on it. But since I started this channel and season 3 dropped, I decided to just watch the show and talk about it. So I am here to give my thoughts. Just a quick reminder to people though, I am just giving my thoughts and interpretations. I am a mere 1 out of billions of people on the internet, so it is literally not worth it to let my opinions piss you off, because for some people it does. So just a quick recap of seasons 1 to 2 on Emily in Paris. Emily is a Midwestern Chicago girlie working for a marketing firm, and she is asked to go to Paris for a year after her boss gets pregnant and can no longer do so herself. So Emily gets to Paris, and Emily loves Paris, but Paris does not love Emily. In fact, Paris hates Emily, and she's trying to seek the approval of her boss Sylvie, but it's not really working out. But she meets a friend, Mindy, who was born in China and is a former singer, and she also meets her downstairs neighbor Gabriel, who she has this weird, spicy tension with. She also meets a new friend, Camille, who she becomes close with. She and Gabriel keep flirting with each other until one night she kisses him, and then immediately after finds out that he and Camille have been in a 5-year relationship the whole time. She and Gabriel keep up this flirtationship though, and then eventually she and Gabriel sleep with each other, and then Camille finds out, and then they stop talking, but then they eventually patch things up. And so Emily tells Gabriel that she cannot start anything with him because she wants to be friends with Camille, but also because she is there temporarily because she's only supposed to be in Paris for a year, so it wouldn't even work out anyway, and it's not going to ever work long term. But also while Emily is in Paris, she's taking French classes, and in her French classes in season 2, she meets this guy named Alfie, who's a finance bro from London. She starts dating Alfie, and then also Sylvie leaves the marketing firm and decides to start her new firm and hopes to have Emily come along and work full time for her. She confesses to Gabrielle, but it's too late, so season 2 basically ends on this cliffhanger about whether she will actually stay in Paris and work for Sylvie or whether she's going to go back to Chicago. But the show is called Emily in Paris, so obviously we know she's going to stay. And of course I have to start off my thoughts on season 3 by talking about Emily. First off, her outfits are still horrible. And you know what? It's the one constant about the show. If there is one thing to rely on Emily in Paris for, it is its questionable fashion. Like, why did Emily wear a bra to work? I don't know. It's Disney Channel somehow designer adult fashion. But I will say that this season, Emily is kind of better. Like, the majority of people in the last 2 seasons have complained that she's really obnoxious and really annoying and really selfish, and that she's just constantly pushing the American's perspective while she's working in Paris and disrespecting French people. Also, the fact that she hooked up with her friend's boyfriend made people really not like her. She's constantly talking about work, and she's also stealing the thunder of her coworkers. She's just written as this very unlikable protagonist, and the writers were kind of like, okay. You weren't supposed to do that. We want you to like her. You're supposed to like her. So this season, they dialed it back. Like, she's not talking about the American perspective, thank God. She's not hooking up with her friend's boyfriend, thank God. She's not forcing two people back together who do not want to be back together, thank God. That being said, she still makes every conversation about work, so that annoying quality is still there. She also still takes over her coworkers' pitch meetings. Like, she did this in season 2 with Julian and Pierre Cadeau, and she did this to Julian again in season 3, and so by the end of season 3, Julian is presumably about to leave the firm because he's so frustrated about this. She also gets into hot water with Alfie for an episode in this season because of how much she dedicates her life to work and doesn't take a break from it. But like, yeah, that being said, she's still like annoying, but not as annoying, so yay, that's better. This girl cannot make major life decisions for the life of her though. As we know, in the beginning of the season, she has to choose between Madeline and Sylvie, but she decides to literally two-time them, which is questionable because I'm pretty sure a lot of companies have you sign an agreement saying you're not going to work for a second company when you decide to take their offer. At least in America, that's pretty common, so it's like, why did she think she could pull that off? She wants to work for Sylvie, she just doesn't have the heart to tell Madeline, so she wants to stick with both of them until she's able to help Madeline find more staffing and then leave her. And this costs her the offer to work with Sylvie, and so she is actually unemployed eventually for a little bit this season. She also like still can't choose a man because she was with Alfie, and then at the end of season 2 she confesses to Gabriel, and then in season 3 we're just supposed to kind of forget about that because she sticks with Alfie. She's still messy as hell. She also almost committed manslaughter. Her French is so bad that she served mushrooms to someone who said that he literally is allergic to mushrooms because she confused champagne and the word for mushrooms in French, which I think is just what a choice. It's after seasons 1 and 2, everyone was like, wow, Emily is so fucking bad at French. Can she just please get better at it? And the writers were like, yeah, and we're gonna take it up 20 notches. They really said, we are Emily in Paris. In the same vein, the writers were like, you're not supposed to like Camille more than Emily. No. So they decided to make Camille the villain, and I hated it. I hated it. Something I just thought was poorly written was the explanation of the pact and the end of season 2. Basically, after Gabriel cheats on Camille with Emily, Camille stops talking to the both of them, and then when she eventually patches things up with Emily, she decides to make this pact with Emily that neither of them are gonna go after Gabriel. And so at the end of season 2, when Emily confesses to Gabriel, as an audience we're like, oh my god, she's gonna break the pact, but then we see that Camille is literally at his place, moving in, back together with him. So I guess we're supposed to be mad at Camille for breaking the pact, but I wasn't. Just because Camille dedicated 5 years of her life to this man before Emily even stepped into their lives, and also in the situation previously, Emily and Gabriel were in the wrong. So I wasn't really mad, but they also just didn't really explain why Emily didn't question the pact thing in season 3. So for the rest of the season, Camille isn't really there and it isn't really explained. And at the end of the season, when she's about to marry Gabriel, she tells him that she can't marry him because the only reason why they got back together was because she was so spiteful about what had happened that she just wanted to keep Gabriel and Emily from getting together. So they basically don't talk about this for the whole season, just to be like, yeah, Camille is the villain and she's also a petty bitch. They just really made her petty, and is she real for that or is she wrong? You decide. I'm just... ugh. The other thing I thought was lazy writing is that in the 10 minutes of screen time that Camille does get throughout the rest of the season, she hooks up with Sophia, an artist from Greece, cheating on Gabriel. And at first I thought the writers were trying to be like, oh, we need a way for Camille and Gabriel to break up while also maintaining the friendships. It's gonna be that Camille was closeted this whole time, and so when she comes out to Gabriel and breaks up with him, it's gonna hurt Gabriel, but he's gonna understand and he's gonna support her, and they're still gonna be able to end on good terms. And so when Gabriel and Emily eventually end up together because they're the will they or won't they couple, it's not going to hurt Camille as much and she's going to be okay with it. No, that's not what happened. In fact, as far as we know, Gabriel still doesn't know that he was cheated on. So really, it was just another way for us to villainize Camille because now she's the cheater and doesn't deserve Gabriel. And I just... ugh, like, first of all, we don't need to make queer or questioning characters cheaters. Like, can we just stop that, Netflix? It's not really helpful. Also, they just, like, ruined Camille as a character. It's like the writers are trying to be like, oh, no, 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 no. Camille bad, Emily good. However, I will still stand by the fact that Gabriel is the real villain, because throughout the first 2 seasons, when he was with Camille and when he wasn't, he was flirting with Emily, and that was very messy. Also, after he literally confessed his love for Emily, he still willingly got back together with Camille. They also clearly tried to dial back his messiness this season because he wasn't really flirting with Emily that much, which again makes no sense because if the person I loved confessed their feelings to me, I wouldn't so easily brush that off like he did at the beginning of season 3. It's just like confusing, like they're really convoluting this love triangle. Also, like Camille, I feel like he wasn't really in the season that much besides trying to get his Michelin star, and also at the end of the season when inevitably they tried to put him and Emily back together. But again, the most confusing part is that Emily's confession to him didn't even really seem to make him want to change his mind about Camille. Someone I feel really bad for is Alfie. Like, he stayed in Paris for Emily. Like, yes, he also stayed for his CFO job with Antoine, but he really did stay for Emily. And it's just... like, I was rooting for him, but it is a Netflix show, and like Netflix does with a lot of their shows and films, he is the second love interest, he is the person of color, and so he ultimately doesn't get chosen. My poor man could have escaped the drama when he broke up with Emily in episode 2, and a character that still and always will slay is Sylvie. But I will say that her love triangle this season just like wasn't necessary. It just wasn't compelling because there are just so many love triangles this season. Like, did the writers not have any ideas? Like, anything? My favorite Sylvie moments this season are A, when she fired Emily because I know that must have been satisfying for her, and B, when she had that couture clash with Madeline and she says this iconic line saying that she didn't want to work with Madeline because it's just like the dress, it doesn't fit. And the last character I really want to talk about is Mindy, because they're just doing Ashley Park so dirty. Ashley Park has a BFA in musical theater and she was literally on Broadway, so if you think she's a bad singer, you can quite literally argue with the University of Michigan. But whoever chooses the songs for her to sing on the show just isn't doing her voice justice, because in the previous seasons we had her singing Chandelier by Sia, and then this season she's singing a rendition of Shallow by Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga in a jazz club, by the way, and these song choices just like don't make any sense. Also, after 3 seasons, do we even like really know Mindy? Like, we know her past and we know she can sing, but really besides that, her character is just there to uplift Emily. And yet again, there's a love triangle with her, Benoit, and Nicholas, and that's 4 love triangles this season. Like, the writers really just ran out of ideas. Mindy's storyline this season was also just kind of boring to me because it was really just her singing and then trouble in her love life. Also, her relationship with Benoit blowing up just didn't really make any sense to me. Basically, in season 2, Benoit writes a song called Mon Soleil for Mindy, and in season 3, Emily suggests that they use this song in a sunscreen commercial for Nicholas. It was very harmless, it was just an idea to make money off of the music, but Benoit is fixed on this idea that Mindy wanting to commercialize the song is her viewing it as meaningless, when it's like, a lot of artists commercialize the work that they find really important to them. But that aside, he was just very insecure, and then later at the club when they're about to perform, Mindy receives flowers from Nicholas, and then Benoit gets really mad. He says something along the lines of, "I'll never understand you because you come from money," and then Mindy's like, "This again?" Even though this wasn't really a problem before, like in season 2, the problem was that Mindy hid her secret, she hid her past, and that's what Benoit had a problem with. Benoit never had a problem with the idea that Mindy came from money in and of itself, so it just like didn't make sense. And that fight is why they break up, and I don't know, I don't get the show. But of course I can't end this video without talking about the ending. Basically, Camille and Gabriel decide to get married, and they're literally about to get married, and that's when Camille says that she can't marry Gabriel at the altar because she had just only gotten back together with him to spite Emily and him. So in these last 8 minutes, the engagement is off. Alfie breaks up with Emily because Camille says that Emily is in love with Gabriel, and then Gabriel reveals that Camille is pregnant. And then it ends. And it was in that moment that I was washed over with conflicting emotions because I couldn't decide whether this season was the worst season or the best season. And let me tell you that the bar is on the floor, but maybe it's both. This show seems to have fully embraced its wrongs to the point that it is right. That makes as much sense as half the storylines this season. The show is just truly unhinged, and like many Netflix shows, I think the 4th season is going to be the last, so they have to they have to wrap this up. Gabriel and Emily are clearly endgame. The whole baby situation and what's gonna happen was left really open-ended, which is gonna be something. Yeah, man, Emily in Paris. It's a show that really feels like a show. Comment what you think, like this video, and thank you for watching. And if this is the last video I put out before the new year, Happy New Year.